it's an emergency show we're having to do because the world is crumbling. Raw, SmackDown had to go over to the UK again, and now everything's done. You just messed it up.
They've done it. They've jacked it all up, man.
So, yeah, man. I was. It was kind of weird. I'm Jared, by the way.
I'm Josh. Good to be here.
Can you get that out of the way?
Yeah, that's us.
I was really wasn't doing much of anything today, and I started getting these notifications coming across the phone and seeing stuff on Facebook. Everybody going crazy about a title change tonight, and I was like, I thought they were talking about Raw from last night. I mean, people are really getting their panties in a wad over a tag team title change. Who really cares? And then you realize what went down, and me being the stupid American guy, like, it says SmackDown Live. They're not live. How does everybody know? So I'm just not smart when it comes to stuff like that sometimes.
It's all good, man.
But do you get the feeling that maybe this is WWE just trying to get a ratings hike? Because I don't always tune in the night of. Usually I'll get the clips on YouTube the next day or Hulu or whatever it is and just kind of catch up that way. But it became appointment viewing tonight.
Them Shivani and themselves.
Yeah.
It very well could be. It totally makes sense, man.
So, if you haven't heard, it's your own fault. AJ won the title against Jinder Mahal, and I shouldn't say the only match that I've seen Jinder have that looked worth the crap, but it's definitely his best he's ever looked. Yeah. So that's saying something.
Still didn't look as good as Ellsworth against him, though. It says an awful lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
James Ellsworth had good matches with AJ Styles. So the next person that tries to tell me, hey, do you remember when Shane McMahon? He outworked AJ Styles. Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah.
You're right there, buddy. Shane McMahon was the reason that match at WrestleMania didn't make you want to pull your eyes out of your head. You're right. It was Shane.
Yeah. So, now it's kind of throwing all the plans for Survivor Series in 2 weeks kind of up in the air. Because I, thought, well, does that mean that the Lesnar match is still on? And apparently it does. So what do you think is going to happen with that?
This is actually the reason I'm bummed about the title change to begin with, because I've said on the show before that I want my guys out of the SmackDown title picture. If you're not going to put it on AJ and leave it there, get them out of there, because the only thing that AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor on the other show, the only thing they have done is be enhancement talent, primarily for Baron Corbin and then for Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
Basically, what you're doing, like we talked about, man, I think Jinder Mahal at Survivor Series beating Brock Lesnar is hilarious.
It makes more sense.
It's hilarious, and it gets you a whole lot more attention than, okay, AJ beats him for the belt, and now he'll wrestle Brock, and Brock's going to beat him, because Brock Lesnar's going to win that match now, and that's not the part that bothers me, because like we said, AJ Styles can work with anybody, so at least Brock can get a nice match if he wants to have one. Yeah. That is always the thing with Brock, is he's got to like who he's in there with, but why not? That could be fun. It could be kind of cool, but now I don't think any doubt whatsoever who wins, and people got furious when you suggested that Jinder was going to beat him, but it's like, it's worth more.
Yeah.
It means more. Brock Lesnar beating Jinder Mahal is useless to Brock Lesnar, but it's a valuable win to Jinder. Now, beating AJ Styles is a valuable win to everybody, because he is the best professional wrestler on earth. But the problem I have with it is not Brock Lesnar beating AJ Styles at Survivor Series. It is that I dead level believe, as much as I'm sitting here, that the next Tuesday, after that Sunday, Jinder Mahal is going to get that belt right back.
Yeah.
People acting like this is throw your baby in the air because it's finally over and the champ that we hated doesn't have the belt anymore. That's awesome. I think it's literally them, and it drives me nuts, but I talk about it all the time. Kane beating Finn Balor drives me nuts, because the only reason you do it is to put Kane back over, so when Braun Strowman beats him up, it seems like something. That's exactly what they're doing here. It's Kevin Owens with Goldberg, it's Finn Balor with Kane, and it's the same thing. Because if you have Brock Lesnar and Jinder Mahal, it's useless unless Jinder wins, so you're taking the belt off of him so Brock can get the win, and then you can put it right back on him. I'm telling you, that's what they're doing, and it stinks. I think it's awful. I'm glad everybody's excited, and I love AJ. I would like to be excited about it too. But I don't think for once, do y'all really think that AJ Styles is going to tote that belt from now till April? Because I don't. I don't think he'll make it to December.
That was the other thought that I had is like, will he make it to Survivor Series? Will they put it back on Gender before then?
They got one show between now and then.
It could go down that way.
It could. The only reason I don't think it will is
they would.
I don't either, just because of what we just said. It seems to me the entire reason for making the belt change is to protect Gender from taking that loss, which is stupid because apparently either Brock doesn't want to do the job or they don't want Gender to do it. But at the same time, if they switch it back next Thursday, it could be exactly what you're talking about. Just get people talking. You've got the tape delay. They never do that anymore. And this way, the entire world will find out about it. Mm-hmm. Maybe that is what they were doing.
We're in the era of anything can happen at a house show. And that's why everybody thought, well, it was just a foregone conclusion that Gender was going to keep that belt till at least into December because apparently that's the next time they're going over to India. Do you then have the rematch in India and him win it there?
It could be. I thought about that too. I don't know, but that's my thing is that Jinder Mahal is getting that belt back either before or during that India tour. You're right. He might. He honestly could. I don't know if they would do that simply because I don't think that you would. It's not that AJ can't work heels. It's just kind of weird to have AJ work heel.
They made a comment as SmackDown was going off the air tonight. It just kind of stuck with me, and I thought that can't be right. Maybe they're just talking about the WWE title in its current lineage for the past whole 10 months it's been around. But they made the point, well, this is the first time the title's changed hands outside of the United States.
No, North America.
North America.
Yeah, because in Canada it has. No, that's true. U.S. and Canada, that would be it, wouldn't it?
So it got me thinking, well, they want to get another notch on that belt. Like, we are World Wrestling Entertainment. We make movies.
It could be. That could be the plan, man, is to have him win it back there. Could be. So, I mean, it sucks one way or the other because what are we talking about?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
A 4-week title reign? Yeah. It's just to spare him the loss to Brock, which again I thought would have been cooler to have him beat Brock.
Yeah. It's not gonna be for the title regardless. So, and heck, man, what's it gonna hurt? It feels very Kevin Owens and Goldberg going into Survivor Series last year or SummerSlam, whatever it was.
Whichever one it was.
I forget. It doesn't matter.
They all run together.
When they changed the title at a house show last year, it's like this just feels very much like that. We're kind of like, this is almost the same thing that we've seen before.
I totally agree. If I thought that Styles winning the belt meant anything for him, I'd be a lot more excited about it, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
He's still going to be better and end up going to Raw anyway. So maybe sow those seeds for that.
I'm sorry. Jinder Mahal's taking that belt back off of him sooner rather than later. Yeah. Therefore, it stinks.
So, that was, what everybody was talking about as far as today. There was a few things that happened over the weekend. I don't know if we usually record Sunday, and it was the big thing was the Leo Rush tweet that came out this past week. Did you have anything?
I don't know if I saw the one this week. I just saw the one that got him in trouble.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that one? Is him and Emma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it just seemed like a really dumb thing to say and do.
No, I'm sorry. I thought we talked about this. Maybe we talked about it off the camera. I thought so, because I'll give you my opinion on it, and you can see if it sounds familiar.
I can't remember what all went on.
The first words that I heard about Emma were that she wanted to leave. Yeah. Now, if you read Leo's tweet as playing off of being a punchline for somebody putting in their request for a release, it reads totally differently than, you got fired, but it turns out she did get fired. And so my thing is, I don't know if Leo knew that or not, but it doesn't matter because basically what we came down with was Leo Rush gets in trouble. He ain't going to get in Baron Corbin trouble.
Yeah.
Leo's going to get in trouble because he's a cruiserweight and he's not white. So it's that one's simple. But you know what? Leo had a good thing going to Ring of Honor. They'll take him back. And that's not a big deal one way or the other. I do think that's strange, though, that that's just what it seemed like to me. It was like if you make that comment thinking that they asked for a release. It's the same. I'll give you a perfect example. It's yesterday when Enzo's cutting his promo and people start chanting, "We want Neville." Every time someone says Neville, what does he say? Yeah, well, I already ran him off. He already quit, so bye. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody asks to be released, it makes the thing totally different. I don't know if that was my opinion. I guess because It's the first thing I heard, and then when I read Leo's tweet, that's all I had heard. So it does change. Asking to be released versus being fired makes it totally different.
Yeah, makes you kind of and sheds new light on some stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so too. But I don't know what the deal is. He might have just been being a prick.
Yeah, possibility.
Yeah, they do like that. They like the guys that are jerky. But that's the problem, is that any of the young kids that think that, well, it worked for Baron Corbin. If you think that's a good idea, you're nuts. Baron Corbin being 7 feet tall is what worked for him. It's just that decision was made a long time ago. Baron's Randy. It's like saying that you can sexually harass your way to the top, just like Randy Orton did. Not a good idea. Randy was the little sparkly, shiny star. They were going to put up with whatever they had to. I mean, they found out the guy was a freaking deserter from the Marine Corps, and they finally stopped talking about him being a veteran. But they don't talk about that other part.
Oh yeah, it's like not gonna look good for the morale.
No. It's bad enough you've got John Cena out there doing his Marine salute long after the movie came out and did not make any money. No, stop doing that, y'all.
And one thing we haven't seen in a very long time we saw tonight was a male-female match on Smackdown of all things.
Yeah, we had us an interesting discussion about
that. So we had an idea of where this might be going.
Yeah, we're wondering, sitting there watching it, and it's cool. Now, the first thing that we talked about is that I think it says an awful lot about Becky Lynch as a worker, going back to what we mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah.
AJ Styles was asked to be in a match with James Ellsworth.
Make him look good.
Yeah, so the only two people in the company that can make this guy look even remotely good in the ring are AJ Styles and Becky Lynch. Now, what does that say about Becky Lynch's in-ring ability? That's an awesome compliment. That's an awesome compliment, man. But we were talking about it, and I was like, man, I wonder if this isn't like testing the waters for future Ronda Rousey opponents. Because all you've ever heard is Charlotte and Charlotte and Charlotte and Charlotte and Charlotte. And the man's already broken down. I think exactly the problem with booking Charlotte and Ronda is like, why are you going to feed this person to
the best person that's ever done?
Ronda Rousey's got to win. I mean, it's got to be somebody that she can beat up, and you're not going to do Alexa because the match would stink, and she is protected property. And from a worker standpoint of who's great, I get it, but Charlotte's way too good to take that hit. So we got talking about maybe that's what they're doing. Is like, this is the elbow in the bathwater of what if we do cross-gender stuff? Because Charlotte taking a loss to Ronda Rousey is a bummer, but The Miz isn't. Yeah. We talked about that, like Miz versus Ronda Rousey. That's not a bad idea because Miz is not a gigantic guy. It really wouldn't matter. I mean, Ronda hits the gym. I mean, the judo stuff. That's kind of the point, is that you take momentum of bigger opponents and throw them around anyway. My point with Miz's size, though, is that not only, she could do it to anybody, but it'll look great doing it to him. Yeah. So it's not just like doing it. You get the extra torque, and he'll flop all over the place. And we just wondered. We thought that was kind of interesting. Like that's not terrible. We had our interesting observations during the show. That was one of them, and the other one was I loved the tight shot's not the right word, but the I can't think of it. It's not stationary, but it's a fixed shot. That's what it was. Yeah. Fixed shot of one of the audience members wearing his Bullet Club T-shirt. And what I love about it is you have to remember there is a producer, and this isn't live either. And it wouldn't have mattered even if it was live. This point still stands, but especially with it being tape delayed, and you can edit out whatever you want to. Somebody in the truck.
They chose to let that sit there.
Somebody made the decision that needed to be on the broadcast. I ain't saying they're all in it together, but they're darn sure all benefiting off of it. It's great. I thought that was cool. It's like, this is what we were talking about, that everybody's getting something out of this. That good for them.
Somewhere, Vince like, ha, look at that fat guy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like, man.
Speaking of fat guys, I got to point out something real quick. I am drinking from an Arby's cup because the one and probably only food review I've ever done on this channel went so well. They have redeemed themselves. If you haven't tried the Arby's deep fried turkey club sandwich and the Cajun, I've had them both now. You can't go wrong either way. I prefer the club, but go check that out and get some curly fries, some seasoned curlies. Anyway,
can't go wrong.
Well, the new rumor going around now is I found out the 5th member of the Smackdown Survivor Series team.
This is going to be fascinating because I keep hearing stuff too. What you got? Well, let me take that back. My number one guy is not the guy because the whole point was England. What you got?
It's Chris Jericho.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic if it was Chris Jericho.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. People are all about that.
I think he's going to show up.
Yeah, Jericho's going to be there all right.
And Ricochet's going to be in the Royal Rumble.
He sure is.
That's smart.
It's going to be awesome.
What?
Yeah, huh? What?
What?
Yeah, I think the fifth member of the SmackDown team, that ought to be fun. Because the thing with that was, it was like the rumor was Neville, because they're in England. Yeah, because, I mean, I get it,
Okay.
but it's still 2 weeks out. You need something. You got to have something for the go-home show, y'all.
Who would care about that?
Well, it's in England. That was the whole point.
But even there, I think they'd be kind of like,
I guess it depends on how much people. I don't know, because the whole thing is real.
yeah.
I guess that's the point. Is if people believed it and they swerved them, maybe they would care.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't really get that one either. I think it's going to be Bryan Danielson myself. That's exactly what I think they're going to do. And then I think the swerve at Survivor Series is going to be basically. I think you're going to wind up with Bryan Daniel and Shane at odds, because you will find out that Shane had a lot more influence in keeping him out of the ring and la-di-da and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you stay over here.
Yeah, I kind of think that's what they're doing. It's silly, but God, if it involves Shane McMahon, I think it's silly. I just don't like that dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's that, and we talked about the NXT invasion, which would be kind of fun too. Except that when you see the people that are being put in that Survivor Series match, it's like, oh, that ain't going on last. Because for some reason, I got it in my head that the championship would be here and that would be last, and it's like, oh, never mind.
That won't be happening.
Never mind. I think Cena would be an interesting fifth member. That'd be funny. I don't think they'll do it. I hope they don't, but I think they could. The other rumor is that Randy turns on everybody and goes to Raw, which is because apparently that's just what he wants to do, which would be fantastic. Because Randy Orton is the one thing on SmackDown that I despise, because he still gets so much time, and it's just awful. It's just awful. I don't need to watch him beat Rusev anymore. I don't need to watch him buddy up with, because that's my thing now, is get him away from Nakamura, because everything about the Randy Orton Shinsuke Nakamura story, it's just Bray Wyatt all over again.
Yeah.
You find the guy with the coolest entrance in wrestling that people are into, and you buddy up next to him, and then you have a program with him, and you go over. Boy, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And it stinks. Bray Wyatt never recovered from that. And that's not Bray Wyatt either. It's not just Bray Wyatt. The thing that never recovered from that is that championship.
Yeah.
That championship has never come back. AJ Styles had it. He lost it to John Cena, and we talked about it earlier. With the way that was booked, it was awesome. It made sense because he'd already beaten him twice. They were paying off the feud. You get him to 16. Everything about that was cool. This is not a complaint of John Cena taking the belt off AJ. My complaint then becomes the thing we talked about on some of the earliest shows we did. Bray Wyatt, Elimination Chamber, wins that match. You set him and Randy at odds. And Randy goes and plays full-on heel and burns the compound down. Bray Wyatt has to win that match. He has to. And then Randy Orton needs to go away for 6 months. That's what I would have done. No doubt. 6 months.
Yep.
And right now he would be coming back to try and get his revenge on Bray. And it would work. You know it would work because you just did it with AJ Styles and John Cena. But nope. Randy goes over and Randy goes over and Randy goes over. And he stinks. His work stinks. The belt stinks. It's never recovered. It has been garbage ever since. And it's not just because homie Mahal is at it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just that. It's terrible stuff. But yeah, I think that was our thing, us discussing that. It's like, it's not just that it hurt Bray Wyatt. Whereas that was our other thing we were talking about, is imagine this entire time, or at least the majority of this entire time, Bray is the champ that's stomping everybody Jinder Mahal style. A lot more entertaining than watching Jinder try and do it.
Yeah.
It just is. And then I just think if you'd have brought Jinder along a little bit more slowly, you can do what you were talking about, and he can win the strap in India. I think I'm nervous about it. I hate that he's going to have beat AJ to do it. I mean, I get it, because it's what you said earlier. It's the only good match the guy's ever had. My favorite Jinder Mahal match ever was that first ever NXT title match, and he was in there with Seth Rollins. It's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, that's why it was as good as it was.
Yeah.
This stuff stinks, man. And I hate it. I really hate that I'm sitting here on a night that AJ Styles won the championship, and it just stinks. But I'm so convinced that that's what's going to happen. I just hate it.
It just reeks of this isn't going to last. So.
Absolutely. It's just, and it's in service of other people that I don't like. And that always bothers me, man.
Yeah.
Got to protect Brock. Got to protect Jinder. It's like, boo.
Well, yeah. Brock's going to be gone soon enough anyway, so what difference is it?
That's the other thing, and that's what I wish more people would and realize what's going on here. Was, I mean, next week people will go all crazy because Roman's coming back. And I love Roman. I say it all the time. I'm a huge Roman Reigns fan, but everything being built in the service of Roman Reigns frustrates me. It's not just when it's people I don't like.
Yeah.
It's whenever everybody has to polish the same boot. That's all this is. That's all it is Brock Lesnar's big, huge Terminator. Nobody can touch him, and Roman will take the belt off of him at Mania. That's what they'll do. And that match will be cool because, by God, their other WrestleMania match was awesome as crap.
Yeah.
But just, it's frustrating.
That's the other seeds that are being sown that I don't think is going to be a good move is to do a Shield New Day feud.
Yeah,
So,
I don't like that either.
so y'all, we just put the Shield back together to try to get people to at least not necessarily like Roman, but not necessarily boo him quite as much. And you think this is going to help?
That's not the way to do it. Those
Jesus,
are not.
y'all.
Those are not the guys to put them in the ring with. As far as where this goes, I think that's a huge mistake.
Unless, I guess, I don't necessarily think that the Shield reunion was a long-term plan anyway, but definitely looks a lot shorter term when you put them in there with the New Day.
I think that's stupid. I hope they don't make that move as well because, like you said, New Day's going to get cheered in that one. New Day's are the New Day are the faces in that one, no doubt.
Yeah. It's whether they want them to be or not. It's how it's going to go.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
It is,
from
man.
what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some more future plans as well, man, because I really like our belt merger plan before the wrinkle tonight. Because now I'm pretty sure you're right. Because we talked about the Natalie and Alexa, and then Alexa wins, and then at Clash of the Champions challenges her again, but in a title for title match, and it has them both. Just let's be blunt. It's what they want to do. It's what they're going to do. And that's no problem, but the man is talking about next week's show with Charlotte being involved. And see, if you do it with Natalie, it works. If you do it with Charlotte, we're right back to Ronda Rousey. It's like, why am
I supposed to care about this?
I don't understand why you would go so far out of your way to constantly feed the rest of your roster to this rookie. And that's the only horsewoman left.
Yeah.
But it's like, that is awful because her beating Natalie, cool. You got the nice vet experience. You got a good win. You got both belts. That's cool. But I think that I hate that. I hate that idea, and I hope that's not what they do. But it stinks because the idea was great. I mean, if you really want to get both belts on her, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, that's not the person to do it. And the matches will be fantastic, but wins and losses, that's a mistake.
They're coming back from the overseas tour this weekend. They'll be in Atlanta for Raw Monday night, then Charlotte for Smackdown Tuesday night, where they've already announced they're going to have Natalya versus Charlotte in Charlotte. And just a few days after that, Starrcade, or a week or two. So it's kind of like, do you have the title change next Tuesday, then the rematch at Starrcade, and then after that, do God knows what you're going to do, or just have Charlotte win the rematch at Starrcade? Does it really matter at that point? Who cares? I just have Charlotte get the title and the rematch in the cage at Starrcade. Or
I would probably have a better.
It's Starrcade been pulled from the schedule. Who knows?
Who knows, honestly.
The way things are changing.
No kidding, man. I don't know the date on Starrcade. I'm sorry to say. I don't know if it's before or after the old
It's
Survivor
literally
Series.
Thanksgiving weekend again, I think.
So it's after Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's funky. But then again, I don't think they're doing what you and I are talking about anyway, man. I would leave it on Natalie through Survivor Series so then Alexa can get her win and then have Charlotte take it off of her. That's what I would do. And it also keeps your streak of people losing in their hometown intact because God knows we love that.
You gotta have that, dude.
But yeah,
Gotta have that, brother.
Yeah, have Natalie win by underhanded means, do the job to Alexa, and then drop it at Starrcade. But it messes up my Clash of the Champions play. But I don't care because I would rather keep them separate too. I really would. But
Yeah.
I just thought that was something interesting.
I mean, the person that, just going back to sowing the seeds of bringing Ronda in the first place, is the person to have her first match with has got to be Stephanie.
I would say I would be down with that too, but the problem is Ronda Rousey does not know how to work, and Stephanie McMahon doesn't know how to work. So it would look like complete crap, and the odds of Stephanie McMahon getting seriously hurt are enormous in that scenario. And also, that's such a behind-the-scenes control power thing. You'd almost need to bring Ronda Rousey in as like a GM character, and who wants to do that?
Well, I think that's where you kind of introduce, have it be a mixed tag. And I wouldn't on the booking sheet look at that's going to be your 5-star match right there. I'm not claiming that.
Of
I'm just
course not.
Thinking that's what would make the most sense as far as what they've done in the past. But apparently that when does that logic ever get placed into the decisions that get made?
What are you talking about? Nia Jax dumped Alexa Bliss on her ass. What? That didn't happen. Get out of here. What? Randy Orton, RKO, Shinsuke Nakamura. Come on, nah, man. I'm with you. They don't care about that stuff, and that's the problem.
They're good guys.
That is the problem with having absolutely no advanced booking, and I think that's something else that drives people nuts, like Nia Jax sabbatical, Neville. Cody Rhodes, I know for a fact that's what drove him up the wall, because he said numerous times that's what made him nuts, is you literally...
It just does not make any sense.
You have to pull hen's teeth to get anyone to answer your questions, and then the second that question is answered, you show up at TV the next week and it's changed.
Total opposite.
That would absolutely make me insane. I can't imagine how frustrating it is for people actually trying to build a character and make this stuff believable from one week to the next. I can't even believe. Can't imagine. Yeah, man, advanced booking. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
They have outside of the title, which they don't even always have a good idea what they're doing with that, have some type of idea what's going on.
I think that's a good way to say one of my biggest frustrations with wrestling for a hot minute now, man, is that world belt is all anyone cares about. And you're supposed to be focused on the title. If you don't want the title, what are you here for? Oh, I don't know, to perform.
Yeah.
It's like saying that everybody, it's like watching a play. And when you see somebody in a minor role stretching so hard to be the lead, it makes you want to just cry, because it's pathetic.
Yeah.
This is your function today. This might be your function tomorrow, but this is your function today. Just be good at what you do. And when you look at the history of professional wrestling and guys that were just good at what they were asked to do, you are talking about Steve Austin when he was stunning. You're talking about Eddie Guerrero. You're talking about Chris Jericho, man. You are talking about great performers in the history of the business. This is what I am doing today. It is going to be awesome. How in the world do you think you steal the show?
Yeah.
Stealing the show means you're not in the main event.
Yeah.
If you're in the main event, you're supposed to be the show. That's where stealing the show is somebody underneath doing what they are supposed to be doing on that night so well that that's what you pay attention to, as opposed to this.
Becky Lynch being asked to work with James Ellsworth.
And it's like, got it.
For Christ's sake.
No problem, man. Okay, Alexa's the new star. Drop the belt to her, Becky. No problem, Ace. Gotcha. All right.
It's gonna suck. I'm gonna tell you it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be good for this time.
And you're gonna hover down here for about 6 months after that, but just do with it what you can. Gotcha. No problem.
Okay.
No problem, brother. I mean, that's cool.
Are you sure you want to do this?
These are like.
Are you sure you want to do this?
These are exceptional talents.
Did
Arn Anderson ever bitch about Ric Flair having the world title?
No, it's good for me.
Not once. Because it's like, okay, I'm going to be in the tag division. Okay. We'll make the tag division better than you've ever seen it, man. Oh, TV champ? I'll be more famous as NWA's TV champ than Ric Flair is as NWA's world champ. And fight me if you disagree. I'm right.
Yeah.
Because in the conversation of greatest NWA world champion of all time, you'll get many an answer. But best TV champ of all time, there's one answer. Yeah. There's one answer. And you don't have to go very far in the alphabet to find it.
It's Arn, and then Chris Jericho second. I'll put him in second.
Who would be my number 2 TV champ? That's hard.
For me, it'd be Jericho.
Chris is pretty great, man. I mean, I've got Chris is like my 1 for the IC.
If for no other reason or watching a meaningless Nitro in the late '90s, and he makes the point directly at the TV, like, if you're watching TV right now, I am your champion.
I am your champion. That's the stuff I'm talking about too, man. That was when it's not when I loved Chris. I like Chris forwards, backwards, all around, but I'm completely with you that him being the reason to tune in to WCW he was it. That guy was awesome, man. I remember watching him in Smoky Mountain. I'd go home from school and watch him in Smoky Mountain. And he reminded me of Andrew Wood from Mother Love Bone, so I thought he was cool.
Yeah.
And then you kept hearing the name, and then he was in WCW, and it's like, right on, this is awesome. And he was just literally that dude off the radar that nobody told what to do. And it's like, this is the reason this guy is God.
Yeah.
Went to WWE, had everybody telling him what to do, still brilliant and wonderful. Then he went away. Then he changed his stuff up, cut his hair off, and he was better than he'd ever been. It was that Shawn Michaels thing where Shawn Michaels has like this big long run of like greatest stuff ever that doesn't do a thing for me.
Yeah.
But everything from the Triple H street fight up until he retired, I love so much. All that stuff, I'm just like, I see what you cats were talking about now. This is wonderful, man. And Jericho kind of had the same thing, man. Jericho also pulled a little bit of Liger in there, man, where he changed a lot of the stuff that he does and mixed his style up, which is great. But it's like, God, this dude is just going to be the man forever. This is awesome, man.
Cool.
It's that good stuff.
It's pretty much what tonight has been. It's just been like, it felt like this an emergency. Like, oh, we've got to get together and watch this.
Yeah, well, it's weird. It's bizarre because we got AJ and then bringing up Jericho, same thing. That's the megaton that got dropped on everybody.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that one feels good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. Looking forward to it, man.
When is the? So, basically, you're gonna have Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, buddy.
Is that January?
January 4th. As far as I know, they have it on the same day every year.
Okay.
And so, yeah, January 4th. And we talked about it. I think we talked about it on the show. But I'm still convinced that Jericho is the stooge from the Where's Hangman saga. And I mean this.
That makes sense.
Jared can back me up on it. When you watch the video with Papa Buck, the first time I heard that voice, I'm like, I think that's Chris Jericho. I mean, we talked about it then, and he was still under contract then, but it's like, I think that's Chris Jericho. So I think he's going to show up at Final Battle and reveal himself to be this. Not to work, just to show up and reveal himself as the stooge that stole the Hangman and all that good stuff. And then to further promote, because I think Final Battle is I think it's the 18th. It's late December, right around Christmas. So, you're turning around to the show for the guys you cross-promote with. It makes total sense. And he might not, but that's just what it's felt like for the longest.
Yeah.
And the Wrestle Kingdom is really good. I think ultimately it's for the boat. Everybody know I know we talked about on the show before, man, because Omega's been booked on the boat for a hot minute.
And I'll definitely move some cabins.
Yeah, it's great. It was very funny. Somebody was just tweeting him the other day, man, just killing him over what a turncoat he is, and he's got no loyalty. And you owe Vince. You said you never work anywhere else, and la-di-da, and this is silly, and boo-hoo. And Jericho actually replied to him and is like, well, I fooled your mark ass, didn't I? It was like awesome. I was so happy that and that was it. That was the whole tweet. It wasn't long at all. I was like, that's great, man. But yeah, dude, it's like, it's just cool, man, how we talked about it. That's been going for a long time. And then Marty's going to be there and the Bucks are going to be there. And it's cool. I think it's really neat. And apparently, I mean, according to Chris himself, the first Triple H was the first guy he talked to. And he's like, man, I'm doing this cruise. Let's do it with NXT. And it's like, I don't know about that, brother.
I don't know about that dude.
I don't know about that, dude. So he's like, all right. So then he goes to Ring of Honor.
I'll take my business elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's really cool, especially with Chris doing his own thing. It's cool. We talked about it before too, though, man. The New Japan thing makes total sense because it's not WWE superstar Chris Jericho is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. It's WWE superstar and former New Japan talent Chris Jericho, and he was Chris Jericho. It's not like they didn't know who he was. He was in it wasn't the first Super J Cup, it was the second one. Him and Benoit wrestled each other, and that was, I don't know if that was the birth of Come On Baby. But with it being Japan, it's so quiet. The crowds are so quiet. You definitely hear when he's like, I'm scared. It's just great. Like all of the Jericho greatest hits you can really hear when he yells them out. But the other thing, the great story, it's in his first book, is whenever they had to have Super Liger to wrestle against Jushin Thunder Liger, that's who the Super Liger was. It was Chris Jericho. And he tells the story in his book about what an awful time it was because the hood was crazy. He couldn't breathe and he hated it. And he talked about how awful the match was. And he darn near got fired. It was terrible. Then he goes back and he wrestles with Chris Jericho and has a good night. And it's cool. And the story that he told in his book was that Inoki was waiting for him. Antonio Inoki is backstage. He was president of New Japan at the time. And he like gives him the bow and shakes his hand and gives him a pat on the shoulder and was telling him what a great job he had done. And then somebody, if I remember correctly, much to the horror of Chris Jericho, was like, he's the super liger. That's the super liger. And Inoki kind of stepped back and gave him the look up and down. And then leans back in and he's like, you're super liger? And Chris is like, yeah, that was me. And Inoki just kind of studies for a moment. And then apparently his assumption was like, super liger is very, very bad. Chris Jericho's very good. That was the whole thing. He was like, I love you. I'm glad we hired you, but we're not doing that mask thing again.
Full shirt market.
That's okay. I'll own the super liger. Chris Jericho can come back. I love that. That was an awesome story.
I mean, to call somebody who gave the WWE the idea to do this business venture in the first place and turned him down, call him a turncoat for going and doing it somewhere else. That doesn't make sense to me.
I think stuff like that is pathetic.
You pine for Hogan to come back every other day. When was he a turncoat when he left and came back?
It's the thing that me and you talk about, man. People get way too emotional about stuff, and this is one of the big problems with Twitter. Running your mouth and talking a lot of crap is a bad policy, especially if you cannot take it when people point out that you were WRONG. You can't handle it. Yeah. So all of this, New Japan's crap, Kenny Omega's awful, he'll never be as good as Chris Jericho, and I love Chris Jericho, and Jericho's the GOAT, and la-di-da. And it's like, that's awesome if you think that. But do not get emotionally invested in the WWE rules all because Chris Jericho's better. Don't do that. If you love Chris Jericho, but do not turn. It's like we talk about with Raw versus Smackdown, and there are people that take that very seriously. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You should not.
They've already got your money. Who cares?
You should not, especially if it's in the same company. My God, that's even more awful.
And talking about having plenty of money, Chris does, and I think we're talking about a dude that's starting to say, like, I'm not going to do this too many more years. So why don't I do what I want to do now as opposed to later? So to even try to insinuate that somebody's a turncoat or not a team player, or how could they? Because the people that he wanted to do it with said no. That's how.
The second thing.
So who cares?
We talk about this a bunch too, man. Chris Jericho was not granted time off to do the Fozzy tour. He does not have a contract with anybody right now. Yeah. He doesn't. But this is the piggybacking on CM Punk's a quitter and Neville's a quitter and Nia Jax's a quitter. People take that seriously. It is their job. It's the same thing. I saw the same thing on the other side. So it was, I'm glad Carl Anderson's so happy being a sellout, man. He's a legend in Japan. Now he's doing jobs with pumpkins on his head. And it's like, yeah, what's the problem with that? Dude, stuff like that is so stupid. If people are working where they want to work and they are happy, what difference does it make to you, man? Yeah. Why do you care? If you like Carl Anderson in New Japan, and I love Carl Anderson in New Japan, it's called New Japan World. You can watch every match he ever had there. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with you? Yeah. That is like, why do you care? The guy is happy, and especially Carl Anderson, because holy crap, he was in Japan for I think it was 8 years, but I'm going to say 6. Mm-hmm. That is a long time to live in a foreign country when you have children. Now, some dudes go to other countries, and that's where they want to be, and that's awesome. But if you got youngins and you don't see them any more often than that, and then you get the opportunity to come home, make comparable money, do the same job that you dig, and you get to hang out with your kids a little bit more often. Oh yeah, Carl, you're a jerk for wanting that. Mm-hmm. That's just the dumbest thing. I'm always gonna hate that stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, just admit it. You want to buy a ticket to the boat.
You want to go on a boat? Yes, you want a boat ticket. Everybody wants a boat ticket, and it's all good.
And I'm not a cruise guy. I don't like them, but that's something I would go do.
Yeah, I'm not a cruise dude either. I'd get too sick.
Something about being on a floating hotel. I'm kind of like, nah, not my thing. It's not my jam, bro.
I like the idea, like you're talking about, of Jericho doing his own thing and starting his own thing. Because despite all of the WWE rules, and WWE's number one, and WWE's it, and I don't know why New Japan and Ring of Honor would bother. Then it doesn't make any sense. It's stupid because WWE's number one. WWE is clearly number one. But it's like saying that the NFL has the most domestic viewership in this country, so nobody else should play sports. That is a really stupid attitude. I know it's all wrestling, but it's very, 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 very different. Mm-hmm. Very different stuff. So Why not have an NFL and an NHL and NBA?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you consider, and we talk about this a lot, the NFL is the number one sport domestically in America because that is the only market they have. They have nothing else to pull from. Major League Baseball has been dying and dying and dying and dying and dying and dying and dying for 40 years now, my entire life, but it's doing okay. Here's the thing about baseball. Baseball can exist in a realm with tennis, with horse racing, with boxing, with ice hockey, with soccer, with golf. Any of these things that aren't as big as the NFL or the NBA, which the NBA now exists in this area too, it's just that it's astronomical. But those other sports I named have been marginalized sports that don't matter. Why do they matter? Because international markets puff up your numbers. If American kids aren't watching, so what? Because now American kids aren't watching football, but the reason it's a crisis there is because you got nobody to replace them with. Every other sport we just mentioned, international viewership, international talent pool. It goes back to our thing about CTE. I talk about it all the time. I'll make it real quick. That is the huge crisis in the NFL, but it's because no one else plays that game. You're not going to find people to fill in with baseball. You know, little kids haven't been playing Little League for years. Yeah, but they do in Venezuela. They do in Mexico. There are plenty of talented people that really like baseball that will come here to the majors and play. The NHL is the perfect example. The NHL has been a joke in American sports coverage my entire life. That sport has the third most number of fans on the planet Earth. The planet. Hockey's the third most popular sport. Number one is soccer. Number two is cricket. Now, what does that say? There's nobody here who cares about cricket. Number two worldwide as far as fans. Hockey is third. So here's the thing about that. If you have all these kids playing and all these people that are interested, and the biggest league in the world is in the one country on earth apparently that doesn't care about it, but they all still come here, man, I believe your international viewership means something. And I've gotten way afield, but that stuff drives me crazy. Sports that can be sold overseas are a big, big deal. I don't know what that had to do with wrestling, but wrestling's another great example. I mean, dude, folks
they're trying to broaden those horizons just like everybody else.
It's always been, wrestling has always been appealing planet-wide. But I think that somehow the way I was going to bring that in was like if Jericho has this idea, it's never been a better time to run a small wrestling promotion ever. It has never been better, man. Forget all that. Number one, clearly, that's a load of crap. It's never been better to run your own promotion. I'm not saying Jericho wants to run his own promotion, but if he wants to have an annual floating promotion, yes, why not? Yeah, if he wants to, absolutely. But if not, dude, if all you want to do is tour with your rock and roll band and have this cruise every year, like the Kiss cruise on, you know, that was his analogy, not mine. With pro wrestling, dude, that's awesome. That's totally awesome. Go do you. It's very, very cool. All this stuff is cool, man, and I'm glad that they're into it. I also still think, like we talked about Triple H showing up at the ICW show. I think we're going to get to the buffet. I think we'll get there. I think everyone will work everywhere, and I mean WWE talents. I don't think are going to go. They will. I think they can. I just don't. We'll see about that. But I think the one-day contract thing is the way of the future. Just because instead of bringing in Drew Carey or instead of bringing in Dennis Rodman or Karl Malone. Instead, you are bringing in. I get that Brock and Ronda are very different because they are crossover MMA stars.
You could bring in a Will Ospreay. You could bring in somebody like that. One of those darlings that everybody wants to see.
That's right. Because the thing about that is, and I know this makes people all mad and they get all huffy because, I'm tired of the flippy floppy indie kids. Well, first things first, the ultimate spot monkey of all time is a guy named Mick Foley. You like Mick Foley? Because the whole planet loves Mick Foley, but he was the original indie darling, spot monkey. Yeah, we all like him, don't we? Okay, just think about what you're saying, because right now we're all divided. But it's just I remember because we saw Cactus Jack was nothing. We remember Cactus Jack anyway, man. I think something that frustrates me about that is if you actually book good professional wrestlers in places that like pro wrestling, like Manchester, England, and you put the belt on them, what happens? Oh, man, did you hear that pop? Did you hear the crowd? Yeah, a wrestling crowd reacting to a wrestler winning a wrestling match. You can still make money that way, too. They don't all have to be reality TV stars. Yeah. They don't.
And it's going to be a good plan to rotate guys out.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily give guys time off, but the 3 to 4 month rotation of people all over the world just start doing that.
I like the idea. I also very much like that. That's the second thing we talked about, like one-day contracts being something we hope Triple H changes. The other thing I hope Triple H changes is the road schedule. It is absolutely ridiculous that WWE hits the road as often as they do. Well, house show business is really down now. Yeah, and one of the reasons is oversaturation.
Yep.
There is no reason you should be killing these dudes like this, man. You have an off season for Pete's sake. You got that many people, got that many talents. Do it.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
So, all this coming from a title change on SmackDown outside of the North America.
Yeah, which is cool. But I did like the reaction, and that was my thing. Y'all seriously, you want to like scold those of us that like Ring of Honor because AJ Styles won the championship? Wow, you do not know your history, do you? Now, when you take the greatest in-ring pro wrestler on the planet Earth, and he has been for about 15 years now. Boy, howdy, you should see the Shawn Michaels kid's face back in the day when you were like, AJ Styles is better. Yeah. And back in the day, I was saying Chris Jericho was better too. Now, you get a lot more people to agree with you on that now, but it was blasphemy when I suggested it back in the day. But I was right then and I'm right now. Mm-hmm. And maybe not better because, again, Shawn, boy, the end of his career was freaking awesome. Yeah. But I just think that Jericho's a better promo than both of them put together. I think Michaels' promos are incredibly overrated. And Jericho's aren't. Jericho's promos are awesome, so I get that.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. It's cool. I do hate where we're headed or where I think they're headed, but, dude, at least the man got a decent match. At least Jinder got one more decent one.
Yeah, want to go home on.
Yeah, for real, man. Well, yeah.
And he barbershop the window to the Singh brothers.
That was hilarious when we were watching the Ellsworth match and Carmella kicks him in the face and Jared's like, he got barbershop windowed. For some reason I wasn't ready for it. And I thought that was hilarious. That's great.
Sowing the seeds of, I don't think they're splitting them up in the side. I think he's going to be apologizing and so sorry next week. Don't barbershop window me.
For real. I like that. I think that's a good plan for those characters.
But, the Ellsworth Carmella, maybe that could be building towards. My booking is that they're going to be in a mixed tag because Cena's going to back out of his engagement and come back and be Becky Lynch's tag partner in a mixed tag with Ellsworth and Carmella, and that's going to be your main event of WrestleMania.
That sounds good to me.
Right after Ricochet wins the Royal Rumble.
Because he's going to do it at WrestleMania. After Ricochet survives the Survivor Series and Royal Rumble.
The one time a year when they all get together and Raw and SmackDown take on each other at the Royal Rumble in WrestleMania.
That's right. It's going to happen.
I'm going to cross that.
That's the way they're booking it, man, because I can't keep it all straight.
It's because of the time change. I don't know just well to the time change. I blame everything on the time change.
It is the time
this
change's
time of year.
fault. That's something, of all the things that we discussed, putting on the ballot and letting the people vote for, I'm telling you, that's one that'd be glorious if that would wind up on a ballot somewhere. I think it might be the only thing in American politics that could unify the people.
The world just isn't supposed to look this way at 8 o'clock at night.
We all get together and vote together on that one. That might be it, but I think that would work.
What's it gonna do to my stories?
It's for real. I can't be having it. What time's it coming on now? Well, if you get rid of daylight saving, then SmackDown will never be live again.
How am I supposed to know?
I can't get it right.
What am I going to do?
I hate it.
So that's what's up, y'all.
That is it.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah.